Okay guys, for Tuesday's math we're doing lesson 9.7, comparing decimals. Please make sure you first write your name at the top. That way when you turn in this paper in a couple weeks, I can give you credit for doing it. Anyways, just a little starter for comparing decimals. One way I like to look at it is, at least for these first two here, is which one's worth more money. That's all. That's really how I compare it. If I've got 0.18 and 0.2, this is really 0.20. You should be able to tell which one is worth more. This one's 20 cents, this one's 18 cents. So therefore, that's the bigger one. But we'll back up a little bit and let's read through the problem together. The city park, they cover 0.64 square mile, or 64 hundredths square mile. About 18 hundredths of the park is covered by water. About 2/10 of the park is covered by paved walkways. Is more of the park covered by water or paved walkways? So over here, in this area, it says cross out unnecessary information. So they're asking about water or paved walkways. So which number corresponds with water? Well, here's water, and that is 0.18. Paved comes back here to 0.2. So if you look carefully at this paragraph, is there unnecessary information? Yes, there is. And so we want to cross out that unnecessary information because it won't help us to compare the other two decimals. So we did that. It says circle numbers you'll use. Well, we go ahead and do that. Copy what I'm doing on your paper. Circle those numbers. And then what do you need to find? Well, we need to find which decimal is bigger. Go ahead and copy what I'm doing on your paper, just like we do in class. And now let's fill it out. So shade 18 hundredths. So now we're going to shade, there's 10 that I just shaded. Copy what I'm doing in your page. And there's 8 more, so there's 18. On the other side, we need to shade 2/10, so I need to shade 2 whole bars. And then we need to compare them. Which one is more? Well, 2/10 is just, or 20 hundredths is just a little bit more than 18. And if I asked you, would you rather me give you 20 cents or 18 cents, you'd obviously want the bigger amount. So let's eat with teeth that bigger decimal, 20 hundredths. Okay, down at the bottom half of the page, we're going to use a number line, and it says locate 18 hundredths and 20 hundredths on a number line. Well, lucky for us, this number is already right there. Oops. Sorry, a little bit of technical issues here. There we go. Got it. And let's use a different color for this one. Now we need 18 hundredths. So just a little tip. Here's 10. Here's 20. So we need to count. We've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we're going to put our dot right there for 18. Now this is which one is closer to 0. So 0 is right here. So we can see the purple dot's closer to 0, and that's 0.18. So that is smaller. So of course we still want to eat the bigger decimal. So we're going to do that. 18 hundredths is less than 2/10 or 20 hundredths. Okay, compare equal sized parts. 0.18 is blank hundredths. Well, 0.18 is the same as 18 over 100. Because this is like 18 cents, or 18 out of 100 cents. So 0.18 is 18 hundredths, or 18, we could say, pennies. Down the next part, 0.2 is 2/10, which is equivalent to how many hundredths? So 2/10 is how many hundredths? Well, you can think of it this way. It's 2 dimes. And a dime is 10 cents. 2 times 10. So we can see down here, 10 times 10 is 100. And we know to create an equivalent fraction, we need the same number on the top and bottom, which creates that big 1, like you've seen before. 2 times 10 is 20. So 2/10 is the same as 20 hundredths. We know that 20 hundredths is bigger than 18 hundredths. So 2/10 is bigger than 18 hundredths. So more of the part is covered by this one, which is representing paved walkways. Make sure you copy all this. If you weren't able to keep up with me, just pause the video and then resume it when you're caught up. Okay, next page, you can compare numbers written as decimals by using place value. Comparing decimals is like comparing whole numbers. Always compare the digits in the greatest place value position first. Good point. So here we can look, it says Tim has $0.5, Sienna has $0.05. Who has more money? So this right here is really good advice. Check the greatest place value position first. And the greatest place value is the ones place in both, but there's 0 there. So we need to go to the next greatest place value, which is the tenths. Here we have a 5, here we have a 0. So that automatically tells us this number is going to be bigger. And actually 0, one of the easiest ways to compare decimals is by writing them right on top of each other. So here's Tim, 0.50. Sienna is 0.05. So there you can tell, think of it as far as cents and money again. Tim has 50 cents, Sienna has 5 cents. And so we'll shade our model here to show that. 50 cents is half a dollar, or the same as 5/10. Go ahead and copy what I'm doing. Doesn't matter if you use pencil or you can use a variety of colors as you copy what I'm doing. Sienna only has 5 cents, 5 out of 100. Tim has 50 out of 100. 5/10 is definitely greater than 0/10. And 5/10 is definitely greater than 5/100. So, speaking of what I was just saying, Tim's number is 5/10. Sienna is 5/100. So this is the same as 5 cents. This is the same as 5 dimes. 5 times 10 is 50 cents. So that is bigger. Yes, copy what I'm doing. Write this down. Okay, similar to what we were just talking about, it says compare the size of 1/10 to the size of 1/100. So here's 1/10, and here's 1/100. Well, think of it as if you had a pie. Now, if you cut it into 10 slices, or there's 8. There's 10 slices about. It'd be like me getting one of them. Now, we'll back up. If we're doing this one, we have to cut it into 100 slices. That would be challenging to draw. Anyways, so then that would just be a little teeny, oh, that doesn't show very well. Probably be more like that. A teeny little sliver is 1/100th. So that's how it helps you compare 5/10 and 5/100. So we want to put this here, and then once again, 5/10 is greater than 5/100. Because these pieces are bigger pieces. Even though you have the same amount of pieces, 5, these are bigger pieces. 5 dimes is more than 5 pennies. Why don't we label that? So this is dimes, and these are pennies. Go ahead and pause it if you need to, catch up with copying all my notes. And then let's continue down on try this. Compare 1.3 and 0.6. Right, less than, greater than, or equal. Okay. So 1.3, let's shade it. Well, one whole means we need to color in one whole square. That's one whole. And this is 3/10. So we're going to do 3 of these. And then over here on the other side it says 0.6 or 6/10. Same thing. So I'm going to color in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to color in 6 out of 10, or like 6 dimes. So you can see pretty easily, visually, which one is greater. They're definitely not equal. And we want to eat the bigger one, which is 1.3. Now, in terms of money, 1.3, just add a 0, is the same as $1.30. Over here, 0.6, we can add a 0, is the same as 60 cents. Okay, once again, I recommend you compare decimals. Think of it as money. So if you look at two numbers, think of it as which one is more money, which one's more cents. C as in which one's more pennies. So compare 39 hundredths and 42 hundredths. Okay, so let's shade those in. I'm going to do, here's 30, and then I need to do 9 more. And then over on the other side, I need to shade in 42. So here's 40. I'm shading in. Make sure you're copying what I'm doing. And then 2 more. And we can see there, 42 is bigger than 39. So we're going to eat the 42. Okay, number 2. Compare 26 hundredths and 23 hundredths. So let's write them here in this block. And we all know that 26 is bigger. So we want to eat the 26 hundredths or 26 cents. Moving on to number 3, we have 0.7, 0.54. And if it's in tenths, I usually just add a 0. It makes it easier for me to understand 70 versus 54. So 70 is definitely bigger than 54. And let me do a little extra problem here just to make sure we understand this. So let's say I have 0.3, 3 tenths. And we have 0.29. Okay. Now sometimes you may get confused and go, oh, 29 is bigger than 3. Well, but that's not exactly what these numbers are. See, really this is 30 hundredths and this is 29 hundredths. But I know it can be easy to get confused and go, oh, 3 and 29, I know which one's bigger. But you can't think that way. You have to look at the biggest place value first. And then after you've done that, you look at the next biggest place value, which is the tenths. And we can see here already, this one's bigger than that one. So when you're dealing with decimals, it's a little bit different than if you're looking at the ones place, tens place, hundreds, and so on. Anyways, moving on to number 4. Okay, so the first thing, once again, I always like to do is just add a 0 if all you have is a number in the tenths place. It just makes it easier to compare these decimal values. So we've got 1.15 or 1 in 15 hundredths and 1.30 or 1 in 30 hundredths. Well, if I asked you how much money would you rather have, $1.30 or $1.15, pretty sure you would choose the bigger amount. So let's eat that bigger amount. And the last one we've got, once again I'm going to add that 0, so we have a number in the hundreds place, 4.50 and 2.89. And you can probably tell which one's bigger. So we're going to eat that bigger number. Now you should be able to do number 6 through 13 on your own. Okay, I want to give you some few tips for 14 through 17 though. So let's look at number 14. One is in decimal, one is a fraction. Now, this is read as 30 hundredths, or like 30 pennies, so 30 out of 100. And we've got 3 tenths. Now, one thing I'm not sure if you remember I showed you a while back is we can go like this and cross out a 0 at the end of the numerator and denominator, which makes this 3 tenths. So it's the same thing as that one. Another way to look at it is we've got if we want to convert maybe this one to a decimal. So 3/10 is written like that, because that's the tenths place, so 3/10. And this is 0.3. 30 hundredths, you can put a 0 there. They're the same thing, whether you look at it like a fraction or a decimal. Okay, number 15, we've got 4 hundredths. That's the same as that, 4 hundredths. And this is 2/10, or 20 hundredths. So that should give you a little bit of a help there to know which one is bigger or if they're equal. Okay, looking at number 16, we have 15 hundredths. And we have 1/10. Now, we can do the opposite of that little trick I showed you before. We can add a 0 to both the numerator and denominator, and it's still an equivalent fraction. So now we've got 15 hundredths and 10 hundredths, so you should be able to compare those. And then for number 17, we have 1/8 and 8/10. 1/8. So these are definitely different fractions. The question is, which one's more? Well, let's go to an old trick from probably a couple months ago of comparing fractions. Remember this? Cross multiply. Each of these, you write the product in the corner, and then you'll know if they're equal or if one of those fractions are bigger. That's if you're comparing it with fractions. Now, if we want to focus and compare it with decimals, that one's a little bit harder. You know, this one's obviously 0.8, but 1/8 would be 1 divided by 8. So to turn that into a decimal, we have to put a decimal here, a decimal there, and then we think to ourselves, 8 times what is 1? Nothing, but 8 fits 1 time into 10. Subtract, get 2. And you can probably tell by now which decimal is greater, even without finishing the problem. Okay, I want to help you with number 18 on page 388. It says Ricardo and Brandon ran a 1,500 meter race. Ricardo finished in 4.89 minutes, and Brandon finished in 4.83 minutes. What was the time of the runner who finished first? Okay. What are you asked to find? The runner who finished first. What do you need to do to find the answer? Well, we're comparing. So we need to compare decimals. So we've got 4.89 and 4.83. Now I want to draw a little diagram down here. Let's say this is the beginning of the race, and they run all the way over here, and let's say this is the checkered flag. Go ahead and copy what I'm doing. And have a little fun illustrating for this problem. Okay, so both of them ran the same distance of 1,500 meters. Both of them ran that distance. The question is, who finished first? first. And let me try to simplify that. I'm going to make up some numbers to help you better understand this. So I'm going to take the last digit of each of these numbers, 9 and 3. So let's say there's a certain distance, 2 students ran it. Shall we say, let's do Philip and Jaden. That just happens to be the names of these 2 runners. Philip let's say he took 9 minutes to run a certain distance, and Jaden took 3 minutes. So in other words, after 3 minutes, Jaden's done, and he's walking, he's breathing hard, and he's just slowing down. Philip, he's still running, and he's going to run for 6 more minutes. So which runner finished first? Well, it was definitely Jaden. And that's because his amount of time is less. It's the smaller number. The first finisher has the smaller number. So there he is with his winning time of 3 minutes. Now we're supposed to compare these 2 numbers right there. So what was the time of the runner who finished first? Well, we need the smaller number. So you write that number here, and then you need to write the name of the winner here. So go ahead, don't worry about this stuff here. We've already explained that. Who is the winner? Write their name here. I'm not going to put it in here, but I feel like I've given you enough help for this problem. Okay, looking at number 19, I'll give you a little bit of help here. The Venus flytrap closes in 0.3 seconds, and the water wheel plant closes in 0.2 seconds. What decimal is halfway between 0.2 and 0.3? Okay, this is an interesting one. So let's draw a number line. And let's put 0.2 here and 0.3 here. You may be thinking to yourself, well, there's no number between 2 and 3. Well, but there's something we can do to these decimals. Think of it in money terms again. 0.2 or 2/10. Remember, we can add a 0. It's like 20 hundredths now, or 20 cents. So we can add a 0 here, and we can do the same over here. So now we've got what decimal is halfway between 20 hundredths and 30 hundredths. In other words, what decimal is going to occur right here in between 20 and 30? I think you'll be able to figure that one out. And then go ahead and do number 20 on your own. Finish the assignment. Hopefully that gives you enough help to successfully complete all the problems. Thank you for your patience with this long video, but I just want to make sure you understand what you're doing and you're getting close to being ready for the math test on Friday.